My name is Robert Roth. I'm an associate professor at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. I'm also currently on sabbatical. I'm a visiting scholar in the Netherlands, and so even though it's early for everyone else, it's like 4 o'clock p.m. for me. Today, I'm going to talk about a project I've been working on for about a year that's just starting to yield some interesting results, and that's development of a body of knowledge for cartography and visualization. Okay, so what is a body of knowledge and what does this look like for cartography? Body of knowledges are common in a variety of academic disciplines. They're used to inform curriculum design primarily, and often used for program evaluation and to accredit programs in sort of a 5 to 10 year review. They're increasingly being used as the basis for AP exams, advanced placement exams, and so the way in which we're drawing advanced higher ed curriculum in high school often is informed by some sort of community-driven body knowledge. And this isn't the case at cartography, but could be. They're used to help vet professionally, so for employers, on technical and kind of conceptual interviews. And so it's a great resource to draw from to see how well kind of your prospective candidates know their stuff. My work here is connected to an effort in GI science from 2006 to develop a body of knowledge across geographic information, science, and technology. And so not specific to cartography, but cartography being one component in this broader ecosystem. And in 2006, there were some core NACIS members that participated in this activity. David DiBiase, a former editor of CP, Aileen Buckley, who I think is here, Brandon Plew, a former president, were part of kind of a dozen, 15 or so panel to try to articulate, describe the body of knowledge for this growing area of geospatial technology. I came up with 10 knowledge areas, cartography being one of them, 75 or 73 units, and then 240 odd topics that as professionals and as teachers we should be exploring. That said, the 2006 effort was not very successful. There wasn't a lot of uptake. And some of the problems are just how fast our discipline moves. A survey was conducted 2 years ago, so 10 years after the first effort, to look at the relevancy of those 240 topics. And so closer to 1 is more relevant. And so many of these were started falling out of practice already within a decade. Interestingly, cartography, as by average, was ranked as the most relevant, so there's something that's sort of timeless about a lot of our design concepts. But the cartography section, the large critique is that it was missing a lot of new and important and really interesting topics, and so hadn't kept pace with the growth. And then finally, the original BOK, for those of you that have seen it, I wouldn't be surprised if this is new to most people in the room, focuses just on learning objectives, which is really important for an educational use case, but not really relevant to industry, and so not something that you would use as a desk reference. And so trying to think of new ways to develop content that's useful for multiple audiences in this update. So I joined as the editor of the Cartography Visualization section last year. There's 10 knowledge area editors that then work kind of under a pyramid system with various other assistant editors. And the reasons why I was interested, it was some of the new ideas around what this body of knowledge could be and how to better serve our professional community. First and foremost, the vision is all open access, and so completely free. Here's the website. We're kind of building the plane as we're flying it, and so it's not the most usable website right now. We're working on that, but everything is going to be freely available, and so we're sort of seeing this as maybe kind of a Wikipedia-like resource that primarily can help with education in the classroom, but also can serve as a desk reference when we have to go back and remember what projection parameters or something are for. Also something that's community-driven. I mentioned that the first body of knowledge involved about 12 or 15 people. This is something that we're trying to reach out to maybe 1,000 different people, both through contributions and through reviews. You'll see in a second, the cartography update has 40 topics. There's about 42 authors right now. There might be about 60 by the time we're done. And then if you count additional reviewers, this is something that 200 or so cartographers could be involved in its creation. We're also looking for additional kinds of content, and I'll show you an example of that in a second, but moving beyond just learning objectives. And the key thing here is we're envisioning this as a living resource. And so once the initial seed activity is complete, we're opening the body of knowledge for proposals for different topics. The contributors are able to edit their content as needed. We archive it with a DOI every quarter, and so we can literally have an evolving corpus as a way of trying to capture this dynamic field. So those are some interesting facts about the body of knowledge. Why I really got involved was kind of a frustration of an increased peripheralization of cartography in higher education. We often, in NACIS, for those of you that are first-time attendees, you might have this feeling that like you found your community, you found your people, right? And many of us come back because this is the place we get to talk design and really have similarities that we don't see typically in our workplace. I think Joanna hit it on the head that just because this is our sanctuary, our safety zone, we need to be doing work when we return, when we're the only cartographer on a faculty or in a particular company, to remind how valuable our skill set is. And for me as a professor, that turns out to be arguing with a lot of GI science faculty who got their degrees in the 1990s and think cartography is a dying discipline. And so essentially getting involved to make sure that cartography has a strong voice in this body of knowledge. So what does the update look like? Here are the 40 topics, and I want to thank Aileen Buckley, Daniel Huffman, and Britta Ricker for feedback and brainstorming on this. I won't go through each of these, but I do want to note and signal a couple things. In the original body of knowledge, there was a single history and trends, sort of the history of cartography. And there's a lot of different histories of cartography and a lot of different influences. And so we're trying to have a foundation that tells this story of cartography from the perspectives of art, of science, of power, of technology, and of education. And so having multiple perspectives, sort of a pluralism of what cartography can be. And I'd be happy to talk about other perspectives we can integrate here. We're definitely focusing on the core design fundamentals. And so these are the topics that remain really valuable through time. But then we've split the technical pieces into sort of map design, representation design, you might say, and emerging interactive techniques, and then trying to continually expand this list. And so approaching things like narrative and storytelling for the first time, and then thinking about big data visualization and mobile as core competencies that our students should leave the university being able to do, right? And then finally, we have sort of an emphasis in map use, which continues to be a really important area of cartography, even though in NACIS we commonly think about design. Okay, so what does the actual contributors look like? I wish I could put all the names up of people that have agreed to give me entries, because it's just a cool compilation of people. While they're under review, what I can say is that I drew from two primary pools, NACIS and the ICA, the International Cartographic Association. And it's pretty evenly split in terms of representing the interests and the background influences of these two groups. You can see here about balance between NACIS and ICA, and there's a group of people that are heavy contributors to both. That also means it's a pretty even split between domestic, or American, I should say, influences of cartography and international, which is something that is by design. Looking at sector, I really wanted an even balance between industry and academia. It's really hard to get folks in industry to write stuff, and so I've had a lot of rejections there. But I'm particularly interested if anyone here in industry wants to participate in this project, because those are the voices that I think our students really need, and the ones that new professors need to hear as well when we're setting up curriculum. One thing that is really fun is that I've tried to target what I'll call junior cartographers. The bar there is, I'm calling myself senior. It sucks to grow old, but I'm sort of on that bar. And then anyone who started after me is junior, I guess. I don't know, whatever. This is just a rough estimate, but I wanted junior writers and then senior reviewers. And so a key idea here is to really integrate fresh perspectives, not just repeating the same old way we've always talked about these topics. And so there's a lot of topics that it was difficult to find the right person, and some of my colleagues that are kind of my generation are senior writers. But it's really exciting to see who are some of these contributors. And finally, one of the things that we've focused on in the editorial board is diversity. And I think because focusing on junior scholars, it was really effortless to have an even gender distribution. And so 21-21 currently for the authors that have agreed. Not so much the case for racial diversity. Cartography is actually the worst right now in terms of racial diversity, and so something that is reflecting both in the way in which we're generating expert knowledge and in the way that we're organizing our profession to address. Okay, running short on time, but I do want to just show this video. Let's see if I can get this going. I'll even skip ahead. So what do some of these entries look like? This is an entry that's posted by Travis White. Travis White's a former board member of NACIS. There's a large set of definitions that we have up front, and we're trying to build a glossary of key concepts to organize, homogenize our lexicon of vocabulary. It seems like everyone has kind of their own in-house system, and so trying to harmonize that. We're focusing a lot on generating useful figures and graphics, and so having a one-stop sort of visual that provides a full overview of what this thing is. And you can see it's sort of at the length of a Wikipedia article. The description is about 2,000 words, and so something that you can come to in 5 or 10 minutes, do a Control F, and just find the piece that's relevant to you. For students, we're collecting key references and having these learning objectives. But we're also providing instructional questions. And so that's both useful for faculty, but also for the vetting process of interviews. These are questions that you can grab to have a kind of a consistent interview experience for prospective candidates. And then trying to collate additional resources. So these are kind of tools, technology, techniques, websites that might be interesting and valuable. And so sort of like a Wikipedia organization of various topics, but targeted for being comprehensive in cartography. So as I'm running out of time, I just want to note we have 6 entries that are now up and live, and so many of which are our core NACIS folks, as you can see here, that are writing on sort of providing their perspective on map projections, typography, cartograms, et cetera. We have 6 more in the hopper, including one Quebecois, Sebastian Cocard. I don't know if anyone knows Sebastian. And there's about a dozen more under review, so hopefully by this time next year, we'll have that full 40 set of topics. And so finally, I'm here to represent the editorial board. I want your feedback. I want to know how this can be more useful. I'm particularly looking for feedback from industry to make this more relevant for across audiences. And once we do open the body knowledge for additional topics, I'd love NACIS members to be proposing things that have been missed from this first pass, because again, it should be a living corpus that is constantly being updated. All right, thank you.